Hi, I'm Coffee Kevin. I have three people helping me today, and one of them didn't commit. Reminds me of the political situation of the country today. Two of them are on opposite sides, and all right. Anyway, don't worry about it. I'm. This is hopefully my definitive Chemex 8-cup brewing instructions. You know, as I was suffering in agony following last week's winter bug, it occurred to me that my life might have been in vain. I'll leave many friends, my heirs, my record collection. But what of my most treasured knowledge? That is, my 8-cup Chemex how-to instructions. Here today is my humble attempt to leave you, cruel world, with some pointers on how to brew using one of the tastiest of all known brewing methods. My methods are, dare I say, unique. I started brewing with the Chemex. Oh, you know what? Let me get this. I think that's it. One of the things I've got, I'm always doing everything backwards, so I'm going to get this going first, and then we can, that's it. Okay. All right. Well, these methods are unique. I started brewing with the Chemex in the early 1990s. Part of my knowledge comes directly from Chemex's owner, Patrick Grassy, who'd rescued the company from receivership after he'd retired from active FBI service. Yes, he was an FBI agent. He was among the investigators of the Martin Luther King assassination, among others. Patrick was not so much a coffee guy as a philosopher. Once we became friends, he and I would discuss everything from world politics to religion. But he would occasionally share notes and tidbits he'd picked up from letters and documents from the Chemex inventor himself, Peter Schlumbaum. Let's get going as the Chemex 8 takes a full 8 to 10 minutes brewing time. I should have some hot water. I meant to start this before we began. But the Chemex, if you have one, and you probably do have one, or you're thinking about getting one, I hope you're thinking about getting one if you don't have one, is really a fine method. It is a drip method, drip coffee maker method. And it is, the 8-cup is the original Chemex. And that is, there's a 6-cup, which is the one I use most often because I don't usually brew a full batch. But this is the 8-cup. So, anyway. I did prefer to use the Chemex kettle, which, if we can get the other shot for a second, we can take a look at this guy. I do own a kettle, the original one, which is a manual kettle. It's just, you fill it with water. It's absolutely beautiful, but you have to use a gas range for it. And it's impractical for this tutorial, so I'm going to content myself with its new replacement, which is also called a Chemex kettle. Although it's spelled like Chemex, they did a kind of a takeoff on their name, so it's Chettle. So far, my tests with this replacement have been good. Seems well made, reliable. It's also beautiful in its electronic kind of way. Make sure you fill it, as the 8-cup Chemex produces 40 ounces of brew, and that's the maximum setting on this coffee maker. You should be able to do this, my method, with no measurement tools other than the kettle, which has its own notch, a mark that says it's full, and the Chemex will be filled when it's done. I know lots of experts claim you should pre-wet the filter and warm the Chemex. I've tried it both ways, and this step is, to me, an unnecessary waste of water and heat. So simply place the filter inside the unit, which I've already done, and place. Now, I'm using 88 grams of coarse grind coffee inside. That's a big throw weight. Throw weight meaning the amount of grounds per brew, but it's the one that I was taught by Orrin Bluestein of Orrin's Daily Roast, and he is also, I would call him my equal as far as Chemex, being a Chemex aficionado. Anyway, the last thing to do here is, whoops, shake the ground so they're gentle. I did leave that for this on air, and then as soon as this gets hot, we'll be able to, you know, by the way, down below, if you have your own Chemex method, feel free to share it. I don't think there's the original inventor really invented an open platform, if you will. I don't think he would have used that term, but, you know, really the idea was to make it a very simple method. It almost argues against the philosophy of the Chemex to make it too complicated, and I know some of us have raised it to such levels, but anyway. Okay, we're going to, when this is ready, and I'm hoping it'll be ready soon, let's hope that this, I've got it set to boil, but actually it doesn't need to be boiling. In fact, what you want is near boiling water. I would say if you're setting the temperature, I would make it 203 degrees. That's where I would set the temperature. There's no magic to this either. You can, if you decide 200 is what you want, that's fine too. But 203 is what I would normally use myself. And again, with the, let's see how we're doing here. It is now, well, it's 160 approximately. That's going to be, we're about a half a minute away from getting the water to the right point. One thing the Chemex is known for is the ultra thick filter paper. It is arguably the thickest of any coffee filter paper, paper filter that there is. And I would put it right up there with cloth as far as its ability to really filter the final brew to the point that I think you'll never find a piece of ground coffee grounds, any coffee grounds in your Chemex coffee maker brew. Okay, we should be close to it. I know it's going to make a beep when it's boiling, and I'd really rather not have it full boil, but wherever it comes, I'll take it. And let's see if I can, I'm going to spin this around so that I can see the where we're getting to. Well, all right. No, we're getting pretty close. And as soon as we get into it is now, and I know you can't see this, pardon me, but I'm just making it work for me. We're in the 190 range, but I want it to get a little. The Chemex is by nature not a sealed method by any means, so temperature losses are pretty much a part of it. It's not like a siphon where you're going to get 200 degrees rock solid contact time temperature. You're going to get probably a temperature of about I think 190 is going to be the average brew temperature. Okay, and we're pretty darn close. Okay, 203. There we are. I am ready, and I'm going to do my first pour. So get ready, Michael, for the overhead shot, because this is important. All right. What I'm going to do is now, and I'm going to start this. You can see that coffee. This is fresh coffee, of course, and it should be. And I'm going to make it, there we go. And I'm going to put just enough to get it completely wet. It's saturated and wet. And I'm going to leave this for a full minute to rise up, and then it's going to settle. And I just stay on this shot, Michael. This is fine for the purpose of this. And let's see if we can. Oh, that is glorious smelling. I mean, that is the one thing, if there was only an app that could create that. Now you'll see, I'm going to let it rise and fall, even if it's a little more than a minute. And again, that's part of the reason that I call this a 10-minute brew. And we can talk about that as we go. Okay? So anyway, assuming you're using fresh roasted and fresh ground coffee, the moment the water touches it, it'll rise and bloom. It will take about 1 minute for this first step. It's the most important stage of brewing because if you do this right, it will set up your grounds optimally to offer their precious oils throughout the resulting pours. Okay, and now we are at the point where it's time to there it goes. See, there it's falling down. It's just a major release of CO2 into the air. And okay, and now we are going to, it's about 1 minute and 42 seconds in, so I let it go for at least a minute. And this is the kind of stuff that when you get automatic drip makers that have a so-called bloom stage, they're not able to see and interact like you are and I am. So there we go. And now we've got a nice, now it's all wet, and the grounds have now become gorged with water, and that weighs them down, and that will ultimately make for a better contact time. And now if we stick a thermometer into this, and now we're going to look for that, let's see if you can see it. You could see it right here, Mike. Mike, you could see it on the other shot. There we go, 195. That's pretty darn good. I think I found that the Chemex has a natural sweet spot during brewing of about 190. And that may account for its flavor profile. Brews a little less, lower than some other brewers normally, especially the sealed ones. I leave it to others, particularly the University of California, UC Davis, who's just taken a whopping grant to research coffee for the Specialty Coffee Association. I'm sure they're on this, but that should be definitely on their to-do list. Okay, and then you can hear how the brewing's going, and as it falls down, you know, there's some people think, oh, you always keep it filled. Some people think you let it go all the way through, and I'm kind of a moderate about this. I think you'll find that over time it makes not that much difference. And if you have a preference, of course, by all means, use your preference. And now what I mostly want to avoid is grounds having, like on the side here, these stragglers that are not participating in the contact time. Oh, that I just accidentally knocked the top off there. And if you could hand that back to me, sir, thank you very much. I didn't put it on tight. Just little things I do to get attention while I'm... And then here we go. We're at 4 minutes now. Listen to that nice, vigorous... Oh, and heavenly, absolutely. It's part of the, it's just like... I don't know about you, but I love to, before I say grace at a meal, I always serve the food. And I love the incense of whatever meal we're going to have while we do that. And here we go. Here's another, now it's time for another pour. It's down low enough. And then I'm going to measure the temperature again just to show off that I have a real nice thermometer. And yeah, I bring it all the way up. I understand some people have weights and things like that. Okay, let's see what we have here. And I used a very coarse grind, by the way. Now, where are we? 193. See, there we are. We're right smack dab. I mean, I think I understand that's at the low end of the SCA's, the Gold Cup measurements, but there we are. I think 190, you're going to find out 190 is going to be where this coffee maker really likes to brew. And then we are... Okay, and let me see if this has a little, no. Okay, let's just bring it up here. And let's try again. I bet it's going to be 190. I'm going to guess. How about it, Mike? Can you see it on the main shot here? Watch the screen. That'll tell you what's missing. I want to see the thermometer, Mike. Well, 185. Yeah, it's not even 190. Now that's partly because I haven't kicked in the water kettle, but to give it another charge. But I think we're fine. Again, this is the majority of time we've had really nice hot water, and then I'm going to top this off, and that's all our water. So one presumes that we've got, and we are really going to be, we are now at about 7 minutes. So that is really close to the spec. But again, it's a little over, but you've got to consider that we did a full minute. We did a minute and a half of the bloom stage. And that really, now, I want to get a overhead shot of this, Mike, right now, because this, look at that. Look at the way, look at how beautiful. You don't have to touch, you don't have to go in. Just I think it'll read fine just the way it is. Hold on, there we go. Let's get it right over here. Okay. And look at how nicely flat it is on top. All those grounds have really participated and really been nicely soaked. You know, I just want to point out a couple of things. You know, a lot of kettles have a near boil, have a keep warm feature, and this one does. I forgot to press it the second time, but if you don't have the feature, don't worry about it. It really doesn't matter. It matters less than you think, is what I'd say. The most important part of the brew is the first part, and that's where a lot of coffee makers, frankly, automatics, come up short. We'll have to do a segment about temperatures and brewing one day, but use what you have. Reason I suggest coarse grounds is the prolonged water contact. 7 minutes is actually pretty brief, but it can go up to 10 minutes. I did a brew yesterday with actually a slightly coarser grind that went 10 minutes, so for all the 40 ounces to drip through. The Chemex bed depth accounts for some of the elongated contact time. The filter itself is complicit. It's hard to compare contact times with repeat drip brewers such as the Chemex. Anything where you do a pour some in and let it go through and then pour some more. Some of the contact time gets exaggerated by the partial contact during the bloom and repeated pours. So don't sweat any of this. My suggestion is to enjoy the relaxed brewing method. I think it makes the coffee taste better. By the way, I'm using the same beautiful Sumatra Mandaling that I got from Oren, and as I said, I know this is his formula, that he uses 88 grams of coarser grind, not when I say coarse grind, probably about what I would use for a French press. Dr. Schlumbaum, the inventor of this beautiful coffee maker, claimed he considered 190 the ideal brewing temperature. As a little aside, the president of Silex, whose own Silex vacuum coffee maker was the 1950s king of coffee machines, wrote a letter defending Dr. Schlumbaum's sub-gold cup brewing recommendation to the then SCA equivalent governing coffee development group. They were like the SCA. I believe the research was either done by them, that is now the gold cup standard that the SCA is attempting to enforce, was developed by the Coffee Development Group, or it might have been the Pan American Coffee Group. There were two organizations, and I don't recall exactly right now which one, but it was definitely done during that time period. Their research, their taste buds, their roast styles, everything, the kind of coffee they enjoyed at that time are the current standards. I use a scale to brew in the past, but it's really, again, unnecessary to make the 40. This is a 40-ounce batch. You're done when it gets there. Just make enough coffee. Always, and that's really ends up to be, we're going to have, 8 5-ounce cups, which is perfect for this group today to each have a couple of cups of fine coffee. Always pour intuitively over the grounds. Your hands are the best ever robotic arms with which to pour water over coffee. At least the equivalent of the most ideally designed shower head. God was simply an expert coffee equipment architect. When you're finished, you just remove the grounds as I just did, and preferably to a compost heap, or you could toss them into a landfill as the majority of chain coffee shops do. Chemex is ideally complex. The finished brew is invariably just under 140, which is probably, I'm going to pour one right now, actually, and I'm going to, hope everyone doesn't mind, but I'll pour mine first, just so that I can do this temperature test. And let's see, I know you're going to have a hard time seeing this, but I'll put it in here. It is 148 right now. There, Mike, let me move the coffee maker out of the way. There we go. You got it. Good move. Yeah, 140, 141. That's a perfect coffee drinking temperature. 150 being the safe temperature. And under 150 is safe for your throat. Anyway. And just as important, wow, the complexity of the cup just screams. And you know what? Safe to sip without cream or further cooling. These 100% borosilicate glass classic coffee makers, that's a mouthful, literally last forever. I've had this one since the 1990s when my son paid 75 cents for it at a local thrift shop. Please hit like and subscribe on my YouTube channel. And or if you're watching on Facebook, you can come down or go to my YouTube channel and subscribe, or you can simply hit like. We always prefer that. But and actually, our biggest preference is that you interact. You know, say something, tell us your story of your Chemex or your favorite brewing method. If you don't like it, what you see, tell us that too. Also, if you want to support my mission directly, which is my goal. My goal is to change the world through coffee brewing knowledge and truth. Also, if you want to support it directly, though, go to my Patreon page and donate. I'm Coffee Kevin. See you soon.